their own personal potential and achieve and experience lives that are working better for themselves. So that is sort of a micro aspect of it, but I'm not here to offer a commercial for me as a service personnel, but we're talking about bigger issues. So on a macroscopic scale, it's really about what's happening in the world of men for me right now. It's a very interesting time, I'm sure everybody's well aware. And one of the things that I'd point out, which is kind of an interesting thing I've been paying attention to, is facial hair. Has anybody noticed the increase in facial hair? Ladies, maybe you have, right? Yeah, definitely increasing, right? And I think it's a sign of the times. It's a sign of what's happening right now, which is that rightly there's been a pendulum swing in the direction of female empowerment and female liberty and female growth and female rights, and I think that's fantastic. It's a wonderful thing, but of course, as men who have been resting on our laurels as rulers of the kingdom forever, it's causing a lot of consternation, a lot of challenges for men to sort of redetermine or ascertain who they are now, what they're about now. What does it mean to be a man in the 21st century? How do you express qualities of masculinity without those being denigrated as being misogynistic, right? Is it still okay to be a strong man, or does that make you some sort of a caveman, barbarian, low-class, thug-type individual, right? Or can we embrace qualities such as strength as a man and feel confident that we can counterpoint that with qualities like compassion? For this time and place, for the world to really experience significant change and shift, in my opinion, there has to be a change and shift in terms of the people who are exercising the greatest amount of power in the world and have exercised the greatest amount of power in the world, and that would be my gender. Not only exercising power in a positive way, but exercising power in a very negative way. So how do you manifest or facilitate some kind of shift in consciousness among men is the mission that I find to be particularly exciting and intriguing to me right now, insofar as I am personally interested in my own evolution. I've been on a long journey of personal development and self-knowledge, self-awareness, self-mastery, self-actualization. So how do you encourage other men to take a stand for a set of values that will lend itself to the best outcomes that this planet has ever seen? Particularly at this time, the Me Too movement has been huge and fantastically empowering for women to be able to have a voice finally to speak out against people who have been victimizing them. Fantastic. But now we're seeing backlash from that too, right? Are all of you aware of the term incel now? I mean, until very recently, nobody knew. How many people do not know the term incel? A number still don't, right? Which is probably a good thing, because it's sort of a dark term that speaks to a very sort of hidden category of men out there who I think are expressing a lot of their own frustration and sadness and depression and disconnection from community, and are now starting to act out against both men and women, but particularly acting out against women. And I'm very concerned about this, and we should all be very concerned about this. The individual who committed that terrorist driving attack on Yonge Street last year, everybody was aware of that, right? Which resulted in a number of casualties, the majority of whom were women. He fits into this archetype. The shooter most recently in South Florida, there was one just last week, I believe, again, 5 women were killed in the course of that shooting spree, 5 women specifically. These type of backlash activities that we're starting to see are extremely troubling, and they should be extremely troubling. And it begs the question, well, how do we create community and opportunity for men to engage in dialogue that helps them to feel empowered and positive and diminishes any sort of likelihood or interest in being malevolent or blaming women for the fact that women are now stepping into their own? Because that's the other big thing, right? Is like, this is not about a battle of the sexes, although that is happening anyway. It is, but it's not about encouraging a battle. It's about encouraging a celebration of each side of the equation experiencing its highest potential, men and women, right? And so this is, a big part of the mission that I feel called to, and also very challenged by. And it's very interesting for me because men are such a difficult beast to work with. Holy shit, let me tell you. Guys are not easy, huh? Ladies, you know that, but man to man, men, you know yourselves, men, that many of us have been tremendously conditioned to engage with one another as competitors, as adversaries. There's always the armor up and the distrust that exists. Men are terribly, damaged in terms of their sense of trust with other men. And this is a hugely challenging thing to try and move past, and to help men to realize that it's possible to engage in healthy rapport. It's possible to engage with other men in a way that is mutually enhancing, mutually facilitating. The kind of context and culture that I try and build in this particular movement, as I'm starting to call it, is about that, an intentionality of engagement with other men such that you're looking to mutually enhance one another, as opposed to put the other person down or somehow put yourself up by reducing who they are or engaging in this tremendously conflicting and competitive kind of dance, right? So if I were to nutshell that back down, the challenge is in trying to help men to become better men, to become more conscious men, to have a set of values that they feel are foundational, that don't divide them but actually bring them together. And that's really a big part of the mission of the island.